Hey gang, Henny here. Another exciting video. Today we're going to be replacing struts on a 2015 Mercedes C300. That is the W205 for those of you that are real eggheads. 2014 through 2021, this process should be very, very similar, if not exact. So let's jump right into it. I'm gonna do everything on a lift, but there's nothing here that you couldn't do at home in your driveway. So let's go. All right, first thing we're gonna do is remove the wheel, 17 millimeter. Now these can seize up pretty good inside of there. I recommend using anti-seize when you put them back on. All right, now we're going to remove the bracket that retains the tie rod, or sway bar end link rather. That is a 18 millimeter. Now we're just going to get this out of the way a little bit. There we go. That'll help our suspension move a little bit more. All right. Now that that's out of the way, we're just going to disconnect our ABS wiring, which is right behind the knuckle here. Just going to disconnect that. That way there's more slack. If we bump into it, we're not going to be stretching any wires inside of it. And it's very easy just to loosen up like that. So just let it lay. That's perfect like that. Now we're going to turn our wheel the other direction. And we're going to hit this from the front and undo our the bolt holding the strut to the knuckle. For the 21 millimeter. And we've got to get something on the back side to keep that bolt from spinning. And the socket on the other side, 26 millimeter. All right, now we're gonna go up top and loosen some bolts up there. Okay, we're up top, and all the nuts that we need to get to are underneath these plastic covers, the top of the strut tower. So the easiest way I know how to do this is just to unlock the cover. There's a turn lock here, and just lift the cover up. Pretty straightforward. You are looking at a 16 millimeter socket. We're just gonna put that on the top of the strut mount. And there's 3 of these bolts. And they come with the bolts that have the anti-back out system on them, so they're grooved at the top. Kind of a pain to get out of there. So yeah, so you see the retaining on the top of the bolt, the retaining flanges. That's just a different system other than using a castle bolt or something else. All right, once we've got our 3 bolts removed, we're gonna get back underneath the vehicle and figure out what else is holding us up from removing the strut, but we should be pretty close to pulling that out. All right, so next, this is kind of a little bit tricky. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, let me go back here and look. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit so you can see better. Maybe a little too far. All right. Next thing we gotta do is we gotta let this brake hose loose off of the strut mount, so because we don't want to put any pressure on that brake hose. So to do that, there's a little tab right in front here. You pull that forward, you lift up on the top, and then the hose retainer comes out from that plastic unit. There's another one right in back, same deal. The hook is underneath though. And you pull it that way and you release. So there we go. Our brake hose is now completely released. Some people like to take the caliper off and hang it to the side, give more room, and we can do that too. Let's just take a look though and see if it's absolutely necessary before we create more work for ourselves. Now you gotta be careful of your brake line, your brake hose, and your ABS sensor wire, not to damage those as you're removing the strut. And voila! Whew. Strut is out. All right, so we need to compress this strut. So we're gonna start by loading the bottom of the strut, and then we're going to pump it up to get it close to where it needs to be for the strut compressor to compress that spring. Now, I don't care what strut compressor you're using, the amount of energy that's stored in a vehicle's suspension springs is unbelievable. If you're not careful and if you're not following the rules, you can get seriously hurt or hurt somebody else. So please make sure you follow the rules, do all the safety stuff, you know, wear protective gear, do everything the manual says to do before starting to work on these. Okay, so I've got this compressed to the point where I can slide it onto the ears. So let's go ahead and get that on there. That looks pretty good to me. Next thing we want to do, safety first. This is our spring safety chain. So basically all you're doing is putting this around the spring and wrapping it around the post. And all it really does is prevent that spring from taking off on you and flying across the shop and hitting somebody in the face. So make sure you use that. I know it's a pain. I know safety stuff's a pain, but you got to do it. All right, we're gonna compress this strut and then remove the spring, put the new strut in, and tighten everything back down. To loosen this bolt on the top of the strut tower, you're gonna need a 17 millimeter, and it's gotta be a thin wall, which they can be kind of hard to find, but nothing else will fit in there. There's not enough room for a normal impact socket. So once you've got that spring compressed, so we got a 17 millimeter shallow non-impact socket. It's a 3/8 socket. It's not an impact. Grab one you don't really care about because you might wreck it. All right, so what we're gonna do is clamp onto a 17 millimeter shallow socket once it's on the nut, as close to the inside of the jaws as possible. I prefer these Milwaukee vice grips, and I'll show you why. So we're on the socket that fits that. And what you can do is you can take an Allen key or anything else. You can even use a socket. I've seen guys use a socket on the end of this Milwaukee vice grips. And we're just gonna tighten it down much tighter than you'd be able to get it by hand. And once that's tightened down on there, hopefully it's enough to allow us to hold that nut in place while we try and spin this inside unit, and actually it's coming off really nicely. So and it's starting to tighten up a little bit towards the top, which is expected because of corrosion. So I'm just gonna grab something to get onto that with. The Allen keys cut into your hand so badly, but if you just take a small socket like this and an extension, gives you a nice way to hold that in place. So it's a little bit weird when you're working with these inside, again, because you're going the opposite direction of what you feel like you should be going. So we're actually going righty-tighty on the inside of this, on the Allen key, and giving the same effect as going lefty-loosey on our nut. So it can feel a little weird to go this direction. And let's see if we got our nut off yet. Not quite. We're getting close though. There we go. Our nut is out. Set this off to the side. I may need to use the same setup for reinstallation. Grab our magnet, take our nut out. Looking to see if there's a washer in there. There's not. That's that. We should be able to now remove our strut safely. There we go. Our strut is out. It's free. It's loose. Looks awesome. Leaky. Now we're going to grab our new strut, reinstall it, let the Vevor strut compressor do its thing for reinstallation, and we'll go from there. All right, we got the new strut installed, new retaining nut. Start that by hand. Once that is started, I'm just going to tighten it down. Back to our tool here. And now we're actually going in the direction of loosening it. So again, it seems, oops, haha, I got caught doing the wrong way. And then once it's snugged up, we can get it a couple zaps with the impact. So the Vevor strut compressor seems to be working exceptionally well. Very happy with it so far. This was way safer and easier than those strut compressors we used in school. Go. Everything's reconnected, so we're going to go ahead and release the pressure on our spring, and that's the lower pedal here. I'm not sure. All right, so reinstallation of our strut is going to be in the exact opposite order that we took it out. Pretty straightforward. Make sure you watch your brake hose and your sending line for your ABS sensor when you're reinstalling those two items. Well, especially the ABS wire is very fragile. So you want to always take care to be paying attention to that as you're reinstalling the strut. And then, yeah, make sure you have it looking the same as when it came out, the same directions. There we go. We got our wires out of the way. So the key to getting these in here is to turn the strut until you get the top to line up. Don't worry about the bottom lining up. Get that top part. All right, once you get that turned, it'll spring into place. There we go. Now I've got it turned in the direction we want it. Pretty close anyways, as you can see. Hopefully you can see. Now we just need to turn it just a hair more. So there is a little bit of give here. It's not horrible. There we go. A little more. All right, once we've got that in place, we're gonna wanna take a pry bar, push up slightly on this, and then push it back onto the bolt holes. So we've got a pry bar in place here. There's our bolt. We're just going to pry gently on the bottom of the strut while we're pushing it back. Just gonna line that up as best we can. Right about there looks pretty darn good. Get our bolt in, and we're good to go. We're gonna reattach our nut on the other side. After we just double check some wiring here, make sure all of our wires look good. We're on the right side with our brake hose. We are good to fasten the nut on the other side. So this is the view from the front of the vehicle, and we're gonna reinstall our nut on our strut. Hope I grabbed the right nut. There we go. That's coming along nice. Just gonna tighten that down. It was 21 millimeter. So I'm just gonna grab my impact here. Torque her down good. And if you'll remember, we have this bolt on the other side that needs to be held in place. Ooh, not like how that sounded. We're tight on this side, and I'm just going to give her a couple more whacks with the impact. There we go. Exactly 100 foot-pounds of torque. Oh, I don't know what the torque is, so don't go there. Not too worried about it for this job. All right, now we're going to reconnect our sway bar end link. Feels nice and tight yet. You want to double check all these as you're reinstalling everything. Just make sure everything feels good and tight. Any slop in there at all, and you'd want to replace that unit. Go ahead and tighten this one down. There's our 18. And we're good there. Tight as can be. All right, so the last thing we have here is our, not the last thing, but pretty close, is our ball joint, our lower ball joint. So we're gonna put that on next. This can be a little tricky. Again, this was our our nut we had to take off, if I remember right. Yeah. So this is a 24 millimeter nut. I should have said that to begin with. I don't know if I did. Maybe I did. 24 millimeter nut, and you have to have a box wrench or a socket that has the, I believe it's 12 points. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 12 points. A 12-point socket or a box wrench, 24 millimeter. You have to have this. If you don't have this, don't bother starting on this project, because you're not going to be able to get this nut off here without it. And I really wish I had the socket right now instead of the wrench. It'd make life so much easier. But it is what it is. So again, I'm using a Allen wrench on a socket. This is, I can't read it. And you need to select your position to off instead of on if you're using the same tool. So you got 24 millimeter to hold it in place, and then you got your ratchet, Allen ratchet. And it seems wrong to be loosening for tightening, but that's just the way it works. Once you get this snugged on, you can torque on this wrench to finish tightening it. I think I'm going to order a socket set just for doing this job. Yeah, there we go. All right, now all we have to do is tighten the bolts on top, and we should be finished. All right, up top, all we've got left to do is tighten down the top of the strut tower, and we are good to go. So again, we're just gonna lift this panel up. Again, no need to remove the wipers and do all that bullshit. Just lift this panel up, get these started, and then tighten them up with an impact or with a ratchet, you know, whatever you've got available. And there's two. Just like getting everything fully threaded with my finger first. That prevents damage to the threads on both the nut and the bolt. So, all right, we got all those started. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my impact. Lock that panel back in place. Whew. We are good to go. Last thing we need to do is put our wheel on, but I don't think you need to watch me do that. So congratulations, you just learned how to replace a strut on a Mercedes C300 W205. This is a 2015, but this process is the same for 2014 through 2021. Guys, if this video helped you, give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. If you'd like to see more videos and tool reviews, go ahead and click the subscribe button and you'll get updates from me. Thanks. Have a great day.